Good morning. Let us be very quiet within, because I am not here to scold or to find fault with anyone's sincerity. I am here to make a correction of direction, and that is all. You have been honest. You have been earnest. I know you have read, affirmed, visualized, kept journals of gratitudes, and perhaps for a time it seemed to work when the mood was high, when the candles were lit, when the moon was just so. But the fatigue, don't you feel it? The weary sense of keeping your inner weather perfect so that your manifestations don't blow away in a gust of worry, that is not the life of the Spirit. That is labor aimed at an effect. This morning, I am asking you to stop manifesting. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. In other words, cease aiming effort at results and begin living the principle until the principle lives you. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. That is not a slogan. It is the law of spiritual cause and effect, if you must use the word effect at all. When you stop trying to get results and you consent to be the place where God is realized, results become the fruit, not the labor. I don't know everything about your case. Never hesitate to say that. I don't know. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. What has unfolded to me is the principle, and you are left with the principle. The principle has to take root in you. And it won't at once be a garden, it will be a seed. It may be tender and small, and you may not be able to explain it to your neighbor at lunch. Don't try. Live it. Let it be flesh of your flesh and bone of your bone. Then, when the wind of circumstance rises, you will not be rushing for another technique. You will be resting in what is. You have not come here to get anything. That is the turn we make at the very beginning. You have come to remember who you are, one with the source. My kingdom, said the Master, is not of this world. Forms, dollars, opportunities, healings, these are not the kingdom. These are forms, and they come and they go. The life we are speaking of is the life that is the law unto those forms. Money isn't supply. Health is not a substance in matter. I is supply. I embody supply. I is life. And as I dwell in conscious oneness with I, the needed forms appear as fruit in due season, without my strain. You smile at the fruit because you know the invisible life of the tree was the cause. You may say, yes, but how will I pay the rent? What about this body? What of my work? And that is fair. We will speak of money, health, and work. We will make it practical. Because if a principle is not practical, it is sentiment. But we begin where cause is consciousness. When I consciously make contact with God, I am at one with every spiritual idea needed for today. That may announce itself this afternoon by a phone call, or in 3 months by a new direction in your work. It will unfold. The law came by Moses, but grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. We will not push the river. We will come under grace. And as we do, some penalties you thought you had earned under cosmic law will be annulled. You'll find yourself relieved, not because you manipulated appearances, but because you stood with the source behind them. So, we start here. Put down the tools that strain for effects. Sit, even for a few minutes, and consent to be still. Let the inner, I say, I am. If you cannot feel a holy warmth, don't be disturbed. The seed is sown. In due season, we will watch the fruit appear not as the sweat of your brow, but as the effortless yield of a well-rooted tree. Let us look very simply at what we have been calling manifesting. Not to shame it, but to see its burden. The common pattern is this. We set an image out there of the form we think we need. An amount of money, a certain diagnosis overturned, a title on a door, and then we turn thought into a kind of pressure to move that image from over there to right here. We affirm, we visualize, we count breaths, we time, gratitude entries, and we try to keep the inner mood tuned just so, as if the slightest tremor in feeling would blow the result back out to sea. In other words, we are aiming effort at an effect, and that is why the back grows tired and the heart grows faint. Why does it create such instability? Because you have made the wind your god. When the barometer of emotion is high, you feel successful. When it falls, you panic and build another scaffold of words to hold up your sky. You become a watchman on a wall, scanning circumstances. Did the email come? Is the pain less today? What does the account balance say? And you call that spirituality. That is not spirituality. That is monitoring appearances. It is exhausting because it depends on willpower. And willpower is a human battery that runs down. Which of you, by taking thought, said the Master, can add 1 cubit unto his stature? You may add a sentence to your journal. You may add a candle to your shelf. You will not add life by taking thought about life. There is a deeper issue hiding beneath the fatigue, and it is this. In that entire operation, supply is still over there, health is over there, opportunity is over there, and you are here trying to reel them in. The very method confesses separation. You have established two-ness, me and my good, me and my health, me and my work, and then you attempt to bridge that gap with mental rope, and you feel the strain because there is no such rope. I am not finding fault. I have done it. I have sat up at night and tried to make forms obey my thought. I don't know why I thought could be a whip. It hasn't unfolded to me yet, but I know the bruises it left. What finally dawned was not a new technique. It was a simple negative truth. Money isn't supply. Health isn't life. A job isn't substance. Do you see? If you are aiming at those forms as if they were causes, you will, of necessity, labor under them as effect. Let me put it this way, and this is homely, but it will serve. You cannot warm a house by rubbing the thermometer. You can polish it, you can tape affirmations to it, you can stare at it with holy intensity. It records the temperature, but it does not cause it. Manifesting, as it is commonly practiced, treats the thermometer as the furnace. It tries to move the needle and then wonders why the room is still cold. Forms are readings. Appearances are readings. What we see, hear, taste, touch, and smell isn't a creation. It is a mental image of a creation. When you press on the image, you bruise your own hand and nothing essential changes. Listen to the counsel of the Master. Take no thought for your life what ye shall eat, or what ye shall drink, for your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of all these things. Take no thought. Not because thought is evil, but because thought is not cause. When life is treated as a project, you become its project manager, and then you must answer for every missed deadline. That is why you wake at 3 in the morning to check the future. That is why you try to lure God with promises and bargains. You have forgotten the first truth of identity and of principle and have enthroned appearances as gods. I want to say this plainly. A bank account does not make you safe. It is a record of activity. A diagnosis does not make you sick. It is a record of activity. A job title does not make you valuable. It is a record of activity. Records are not causes. Don't you know you have been reading the ledger as if the numbers created the business? That is why you have been so careful with the pen, as if ink could produce inventory. Now, we are not going to swing to the other extreme and become passive. Don't try that either. We are going to step back from the reading and ask for the source of the reading. If forms are not supply, then we must find what supply is before we talk again about demonstrations. We must find the root that produces fruit in due season. Until that root is known, you will go on polishing thermometers and wondering why you are cold. In the next breath of our work together, we will turn from effect to cause. We will cease aiming effort at outcomes and begin living the principle until it takes root. Then, without strain, the needle moves because the room is warm. What then takes the place of all that straining? Not a new trick, not another rule. There are no rules or regulations saying how you shall pray, how long you shall sit, or how many sentences you shall repeat. You are left with the principle. The unit of truth is not a method, it is a principle, and the principle has to take root in you. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. In other words, the alternative to effort is realization, conscious contact with the indwelling presence until that contact is your normal air. Now, I know the mind wants a handle to grab, some lever to pull, and it says, tell me exactly what to do, and if I could, I wouldn't. Because this is not a business of doing, it is a life of being. Be still and know that I am God. Be still. Yes. No. Yes. But do not try to know in order to get. Consent to know in order to be. To be what? To be the place where God is realized. When I consciously make contact with God, I am then at one with every spiritual idea that must appear in my experience today. It may come by a letter opened this afternoon. It may well be conceived today and born in 3 months or in 3 years. Conception precedes birth. First the contact, then the unfoldment. First the blade, then the ear. After that, the full corn in the ear. The master wasn't giving a gardening lesson. He was describing the rhythm of spiritual life. Let the image be organic because it is. A seed does not strain. It abides in its right place, and it yields to the life that is already within it. It yields. There is a warmth, a moisture, a law of life pressing out from the invisible into visibility, and the seed consents. It is not a hero. It is not a manager. It is an instrument. In due season, don't hurry that phrase, in due season, the invisible shows itself as blade, then ear, then full corn. So it is with you. The principle must be planted, and you must be the soil, quiet, receptive, faithful in the small. You cannot pry open the husk because you think it is taking too long. You will only spoil the ear. You cannot staple fruit to a tree and call it harvest. That is manifesting. You smile at stapled fruit, but you've done it, haven't you? You tried to hang results on a consciousness that had not yet rooted in principle. And of course the wind came, and of course the fruit fell. What replaces effort is abiding. Abide in me, and I in you, and ye shall bear much fruit. Abide. That is not passivity. It is the most vital activity of which you are capable. It is the turning of attention from appearances to the source behind them. It is saying, sometimes wordlessly, here I am, Father, and waiting not for a sign, but for a presence. If in that waiting there is no thunder, then there is no thunder. I don't know why. Some mornings are filled with light and some are dry. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. I do know this. The seed is being kept, and the keeping bears its own witness. One day you notice you are less frightened. Another day you discover a resentment is simply gone, like a fever that broke in the night. And without your engineering, a right idea comes, a God idea, and it carries within itself the means of its own fulfillment. Do not attempt to explain the principle before it has become flesh of your flesh and bone of your bone. You may not at first be able to describe it. Don't try, live it, exemplify it, talk little. Listen much. Sit until you feel, even faintly, the release that says, I am. Not I will be, not I hope to be, not I must be for this to work, just I am. In that I, all that the day requires is already present, but as seed. And you will learn to honor the seasons of your own unfoldment. You will stop digging up the roots to see if they are growing. You will let the earth be earth and the rain be rain. Sometimes the fruit does appear at once. In a twinkling, the fear is stilled. The way opens. The answer stands before you, saying, "Peace be unto you." Sometimes the conception is quiet and hidden, and months later, when you have almost forgotten, the birth takes place as naturally as dawn. Do not measure the reality by the speed of the appearance. The reality is God as your very life, the principle of conscious oneness. When that principle takes root, it governs your hours, and the hours begin to show it. You find yourself under grace rather than under the hammer of deadlines and outcome. And grace is not an effect you chase. It is the atmosphere in which your being lives and moves and has its being. So, what replaces effort? Principle rooted, presence realized, contact kept. The rest is fruit. And fruit follows root, not because you command it, but because you abide. Now we come to the heart of it. And I must say it as plainly as it was said to me. I is supply, not I have supply, not I will get supply. I is supply. I embody supply. Supply isn't external to me. It isn't out there in someone else's pocket, in a bank, in an employer's ledger, in a customer's hand. What appears as money, as opportunities, as open doors, that is fruit. The life that brings it forth is invisible, indwelling, ever present, and it moves into form as needed in season, like the sap in spring. Behold, the kingdom of God is within you. Do you see? If the kingdom is within, then the laws and wealth of that kingdom are not fetched by human striving. They are realized, and then they unfold as effect. Let the orange tree be our teacher, because it will not argue with you. You stand in an orchard, and you see oranges. You smile, and you pick one. You taste sweetness. You feel strength, and you say, "What wonderful fruit." Yes, but was the fruit the supply? Or was the supply the invisible life root drawing from soil, sap rising, sun and rain joined in a law that neither hurries nor delays? If you tap the orange and command it to ripen faster, you will only bruise it. If you staple a store-bought orange to a dead branch and call it harvest, you have not changed the tree. The invisible life is the supply. The orange is the appearance of supply in due season. In other words, forms are readings. Life is cause. Carry that from orchards into your own chest. The I that says I am is the life. When you realize I is supply, begging ends. You stop writing letters to life as if life were a reluctant banker. You stop flattering appearances. You stop bargaining with deadlines. You turn within, not to get anything, but to be what you are, the place where God is realized, and then my cup runneth over. Notice, the psalmist did not chase cups. He found anointing within, and the overflow took care of the vessels. This is also the end of competition. I want to say that slowly, because you have been schooled in rivalry since childhood. There is no competition in spirit. There cannot be. If supply is invisible, indwelling presence expressing his right ideas and right activity, then no man on earth can get between you and your supply. They can only get between you and your belief about supply. Two orange trees do not compete. Each abides in its law, and each bears after its kind. So with you, whatever ability, talent, idea, or service is to appear in and through you is already embodied as seed in your eye. You are the child of God, a joint heir with Christ. You are not a beggar at the world's door. The Master could say, "All that the Father hath is mine," and yet he did not hoard forms. He rested in identity. Do likewise. Rest in identity. Let the forms come and go under law, and you will discover there is nothing to take and nothing to defend. Now, don't try to make a doctrine out of this. Live it. Exemplify it. I don't know why one person's fruit comes early and another's late. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. I do know the law. When I consciously make contact with God, I am at one with the ideas necessary for this hour. And those ideas carry within themselves the means of their own appearing. The work, then, is not hunting. The work is not forcing. The work is abiding and listening. Abide in me, and I in you, and ye shall bear much fruit. Sit quietly until the Spirit within says, if only in a whisper, I am. Not I will provide, just I am. In that I, the pattern is complete as seed. Your part is to honor the season and obey the inner impulse when it moves. You ask, but what shall I do? Do the next ordinary right thing that presents itself after conscious contact. Make the call if it rises naturally. Send the letter if it is given you to write. Open the window if the room is stuffy. In other words, let the invisible government of your being take the lead, and let your hands be its servants. You will find ideas arriving that do not strain you because they belong to you. They unfolded from the I that you are, and you will notice something else, an absence of fear. Because when supply is I, shortages out there do not terrify you. A ledger becomes a reading again, not a God. A headline becomes weather, not destiny. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. The kingdom, not a handful of coins. So, we end the chase. We withdraw our worship from forms and return it to source. We cease asking life to pay us and permit life to live us. And then, as it always has in the presence of realized identity, form appears right ideas first, then the orange on the branch, without a chase, without a fight, without a bargain. I is supply. Let that take root and watch what happens to your days. Let us take one more firm step, because unless you see this, you will keep giving your power away to the very shadows that frighten you. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. The Master was not counseling you to ignore your senses. He was teaching you how to place them. What you see, hear, taste, touch, and smell isn't a creation. It is a mental image of a creation. It is a reading, not the furnace. A shadow, not the body. A photograph, not the life. Conditions are not your creator. They are appearances, and you are learning to stand with the source behind them. Now, I must use this cadence because it corrects centuries of habit. There is no matter as cause. There are no material formations as law. There is no material law that can bind the activity of spirit. Do not leap from that into bravado. Do not go home and triumphantly scold your pain or your bills or your headlines. That is still giving them power. We are not denying experience. We are denying that experience is self-existent, self-governed, or creative. In other words, we are withdrawing the scepter from appearances and returning it to the invisible government of your being. Why does this matter for the life you live from morning to night? Because when you treat conditions as cause, you become their servant. If the account balance is a cause, it commands your peace. If a diagnosis is a cause, it legislates your hope. If a market report is a cause, it drafts your decisions. You live as a prisoner, waiting for a warden's nod. But if conditions are appearances, reports, not verdicts, then they are useful as information and harmless as law. A shadow on the wall may show you where the lamp is, but it does not burn. A wave can lift or lower a boat, but it does not command the ocean. So it is with every form marching before your eyes. They are the needle, they are not the fire. You will say, yes, but the needle scares me. I know. I have sat with needles that shook me. I don't know why some of them quieted at once and some kept trembling for a season. It hasn't unfolded to me yet, but the principle has, and you are left with the principle. When the reading terrifies you, do not rush to change it. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. Turn within and make conscious contact with I. Even if your prayer is a whisper, even if it is no prayer at all but a consent, here I am, you have taken the scepter from the shadow, stay there a moment beyond your fear. Let the inner word arise, if only as a hush, I am. You will feel a loosening. Not a boast, not a battle cry, just a loosening. Then do the next ordinary right thing that presents itself. Pay what is yours to pay. Rest if you are moved to rest. Call who you are moved to call. You will find that the form begins to answer to the life behind it, not to your pressure upon it. The scriptures are plain about this order. We walk by faith, not by sight. Sight is the realm of appearances. Faith is the recognition of invisible reality as cause. Set your affection on things above, not on things on the earth. Above is not a place. It is the level of principle, of law as God, of the government of grace. And here is the bridge you must cross. If material law is not ultimate, then there is a higher government. The law came by Moses, measure for measure, sowing and reaping under cosmic order. But grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. Grace sets aside penalties accrued under misidentification. Grace annuls the sentence. Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. That is not permission to break rules. That is the revelation that when you stand in identity, in I, the ledger ceases to govern you. The report is no longer a verdict. The appearance is no longer a creator. Do you see then why we insist on this? You are not trying to jimmy a lock on the vault of forms. You are consenting to live from the vault of being. You will keep seeing, touching, hearing, of course you will, but you will not bow. You will bless the appearances as readings. You will listen for the right idea that carries its own fulfillment, and you will watch the forms conform. Sometimes at once, sometimes first the blade, then the ear, but always under grace. And in that atmosphere, fear loses its throne. You are no longer hypnotized by conditions. You are governed by source. And the world becomes what it always was meant to be, a fruitful report of a life lived from within. We have said that appearances are not creators. Now let us look at the government behind appearances, because if you do not know what government you are under, you will misread the day. Cosmic law is the government of cause and effect measured out, as if by scales, sowing and reaping, debit and credit, eye for eye and tooth for tooth. It keeps score. It is the ledger that says, you did this, therefore you must have that. Under that government, life is a courtroom, conscience is a prosecutor, and fear is the bailiff. You lie down with calculations and you rise with calculations. Did I do enough good to offset that mistake? Will this word come back to me? Will this seed I sowed in anger return with interest? In other words, you live as a bookkeeper of your own soul, and the books never quite balance. Now hear the contrast. Because it is a threshold. Grace is not a technique and not a bonus for good behavior. Grace is a higher government. The law came by Moses, but grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. Grace is the action of God realized within. It is not earned, it is revealed. It is not your improved record. It is your discovered identity. And when grace dawns, the courtroom dissolves and a Father's house appears. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus, not because they perfected methods, but because they awakened to I as their life. Mercy rejoiceth against judgment. The handwriting of ordinances that was against you is blotted out, not ignored, not hidden, blotted out by a new jurisdiction. I must tell you a simple story because it says more than an explanation can. A few years ago, a young bookkeeper in a manufacturing firm, quiet fellow, first child, trying to please everyone, made a foolish, fearful choice. He shifted figures to cover a shortfall, promising himself he would make it right on payday. He did not. The auditors found it. Charges were filed. His parents sat in my room with faces drained of hope, and the boy sat there like Winter, unable to lift his head. We did not plead with God for favors. We did not bargain with cosmic law. We grew still. We turned from the ledger to the living presence and rested in the fact, not the hope, that I is life, I is law, I is grace. Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. That word rose, not as a license to cheat, but as the revelation of identity. This boy is not a thief trying to become honest. He is the child of God, awakening to what he is. The next day now, I don't know why it was the next day. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. The attorney called. The employer, after a night's wrestling, withdrew the criminal complaint on the condition of restitution. The judge accepted a suspended sentence. The boy kept his freedom, made full restitution, and more than that, began to live under another government. The penalty written in the ledger was annulled, not excused, annulled, because a higher law had acted. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. If you are listening with ears trained only by cosmic law, this will sound like soft sentiment. It is not. It is a change of government. In the twinkling of an eye, judgment yielded to grace, and with it came a new nature, a steady, clean honesty that required no effort to maintain, because it was now his identity, not his project. Bring this inward, because not all prisons have bars. You tell me. I ruined my chances. I married foolishly. I wasted my education. I failed my children. I ruined my health. These are cosmic law narratives. They are ledgers written on the heart, and you have lived years paying interest on debts that do not exist in God. Do you see what you have been doing? Balancing columns, promising yourself 30 days of perfection to work off yesterday's error, gripping technique as if it were atonement. Don't try. Live it. Turn from the arithmetic to the presence. Make conscious contact with I. Sit there, even if your prayer is only this. Here I am. Under that contact, something happens that cannot be tabulated. The guilt loosens. The mind that sentenced you begins to forget its case. As far as the east is from the west, so far hath he removed our transgressions from us. And then, without strain, life provides right ideas for restitution, where restitution is needed, and right forgetting where forgetting is healing. Opportunities you swore you had forfeited appear by another route. Health that you thought had to be earned returns, because life, not merit, is the cause of life. Do not try to explain this to the ledger. It cannot understand. The ledger can only add and subtract. Identity multiplies. Identity transforms. When the realization of grace dawns, you are no longer a sinner trying to qualify. You are a son, a daughter, living from inheritance. All that I have is thine. Under cosmic law, you nervously watch seeds and seasons. Under grace, you rest in I and obey the impulse as it rises, and the fruit appears under its own ordinance. We are standing then at a threshold. Cross it, not by declaration, but by embodiment. Abide in I, until the awareness of grace is not a hope you clutch, but a jurisdiction you live under. And as you do, you will find that penalties fall away, sentences are set aside, and the past cannot legislate your future. You are only under cosmic law until the realization of grace dawns, and then the ledger no longer governs you. Now comes a very practical mercy, and I want you to hear it with relief. Do not hurry to talk about this. The mind, trained to perform, will ask for a script. Give me the phrases. Give me the steps. I will declare them loudly, and then I shall be spiritual. No, don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. The soul does not need a speech. It needs realization. The letter killeth, but the Spirit giveth life. If at first you cannot describe a single thing that has happened, you are not failing. You may be being spared from premature speech. Let the word be made flesh before it becomes sentences. What does that look like in the morning? It looks like this. You sit, you grow still, no formulas. Be still and know that I am God. If all you can say is, here I am, then sit with that and let it be enough. Sit 1 minute beyond your impatience. Let the hush come not as a thunderclap, but as a soft I am. If the mind asks, what shall I do with this? You answer nothing. Do nothing with it. Be it. You are not working a principle. You are yielding to it until it works you. And then the small moments are your altar, not dramatic ones. Washing dishes, turn within and remember I. Walking to the corner, yield one breath to the presence that goes before you to make the crooked places straight. Before an email, pause, not to word it cleverly, but to consent. Father, glorify thyself. In other words, practice the principle in the places where your life actually lives. The human mind wants a stage. God gives you a sink, a steering wheel, a cashier, a neighbor. That is not a demotion. That is the training ground where the invisible becomes dependable. Thy word have I hid in mine heart, not posted on the wall as a performance. Do not be discouraged when you have nothing to report. The seed does not write a newsletter from the soil. I don't know why some days you feel lit from within and other days you feel dull. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. I do know this. Faithfulness in the ordinary ripens the extraordinary. A teacup does not learn warmth by lecturing the kettle. It is warmed by nearness. Stay near, return often. A lamp does not beg the darkness to understand. It shines because its oil is present. Keep oil in your lamp. That is, keep contact brief, sincere, repeated. 100 small consentings are more fruitful than one heroic outburst. Remember also, there is no way of teaching anything you do not exemplify to some degree. You will be tempted to rush out and fix everyone with your new terms. Don't. By their fruits ye shall know them, not by their footnotes. Let the first sermon be your presence. Let the first doctrine be your gentleness. If your home grows quieter, your eye kinder, your fear less governing, that is theology enough for the hour. If someone asks, you can say something simple, I'm learning to be still. And if they press for explanations you do not yet embody, never hesitate to say, I don't know. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. That humility protects the root. This maturation has a rhythm. At first, experience without words. Then, words grow naturally out of experience, like leaves after root. Finally, there is a simplicity that needs few words again because the principle has become your climate. Walk in the Spirit, Paul said, not run to impress. Walk. To walk means continuity, step after step in the same direction, even on unremarkable streets. Very soon, you will notice that certain reactions do not rise as they used to. Certain fears do not catch you as they did. Certain ideas arrive whole, needing no sweat to assemble. That is the fruit of embodiment. We will take this embodiment into money, health, and work. Not as techniques, not as levers to pull for dollars, cures, and rolls, but as the same presence expressing itself in those arenas as right ideas and right activity. The order will not change. Contact first, then the natural next step. Identity first, then the form that belongs to it. If you listen for principles and try to fashion them into tricks, you will grow tight again. If you live the principle until it becomes flesh of your flesh and bone of your bone, you will find results following you as quietly as your shadow. So let this be our measure. The proof is not your explanation. The proof is your life. If the inner hush becomes the air you breathe, explanations will take care of themselves. If your hands become more willing, your words more measured, your days less driven, your nights more restful, that is the doctrine walking. Out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaketh. Yes, but first let the heart abound. Then, when we speak of supply, of healing, of vocation, we will not be offering methods. We will be bearing witness to a life that has already begun to live us. Let us speak plainly about money, because this is where the habit of manifesting most quickly shows its teeth. Money isn't supply. Do not waste another prayer counting zeros. Money is a form that supply may take, as oranges are a form that life may take on a tree. If you aim your effort at the orange, in other words, if you aim your effort at dollars, you bruise the fruit and starve the root. The principle stands, I is supply. I embody supply. Supply is invisible presence unfolding as right ideas and right activity, and only later does it appear to you as dollars, as checks cleared, as clients phoning, as invoices paid, as doors that open without pushing. Then what is the right posture? Stop scanning the horizon as if the world were your paymaster. Be still enough to hear the government within. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Added, not wrestled into place, added. In other words, the stillness by which you recognize I as supply is not passivity. It is the switch that turns on the inner government that orders your day. Be still and know that I am God. Sit until the hush comes, if only a pinch of it, and then watch how ideas begin to arrive, not as wishes but as directives carrying their own authority. Right ideas are the currency of invisible supply. Let me name a few so that you do not imagine this is vapor. You grow still about the overdue rent, and instead of rehearsing a speech about your poverty, a simple directive rises. Call the landlord now, not tomorrow. Speak truthfully. Propose terms you can keep. You obey, and the conversation disarms fear on both sides. That idea was supply, and the arrangement you make is only the first coin in its pocket. Or you sit quietly over a dwindling balance, and the unglamorous word comes. Correct the invoice you sent last week, you mispriced the line item. You blush, you correct it, you send it with an apology, and the client pays at once, because clarity is easier to pay than confusion. Right idea, supply. Or you feel the itch to spam resumes in panic, but the inner nudge says, wait, finish that 2-page guide on the problem you actually solve, send it to 3 people you can actually help. You do, and one writes back, can we talk? That guide was supply. Or, just as important, the word may be restraint. Do not take that glittering contract. Its terms are a trap. Do not buy that item. It will cost you twice. Cancel that subscription. Prune that expense. Restraint is supply because it preserves your roots for true fruit. Now you will protest, but I am afraid. Of course you are. Under fear, you will try to force effects, shouting affirmations at the sky, bargaining with the calendar, pouncing on every rumor of opportunity. Under grace, you will act, yes, but without strain, because you will be acting as one who has supply, not as one trying to get it. You will balance your accounts, you will return calls, you will fulfill obligations, but you will do so as a steward of an inner treasury, not as a beggar at a window. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. The kingdom governs ideas, and ideas govern forms. When you are in grace, duty becomes light because each step belongs to you. It unfolded from I. When you are in fear, every step hurts because you are pushing a cart that does not belong to you. Do not be discouraged by timing. Supply is living, and all living things honor season. First the blade, then the ear, after that the full corn in the ear. Today may be conception, not birth. You may sit and find only this, a quiet willingness to stop bargaining, that is, supply at seed. Tomorrow, a name may surface, call her. Next week, a plan offer, a small workshop, not a grand course. Next month, a check arrives from a direction you never could have chased, because the path was not linear, it was organic. In due season we shall reap if we faint not. I don't know why some harvests seem to appear overnight and others take 3 or 5 years. It hasn't unfolded to me yet, but the principle has, and you are left with the principle. When you establish I as supply, right ideas come on time, and the forms follow at the pace of their own law. So, refuse the old definition. Money isn't supply. Stop affirming dollars, affirm nothing. Be still and know. Let the inner government speak, and then obey the natural directive that rises: conversation, correction, service, restraint. As you live this without strain, money will find you the way rightness finds a branch. It cannot do otherwise, for life within is the cause, and forms are its readings. Seek first the kingdom. All these things are added. Let us come to health with tenderness, because when the body cries, it is easy to turn truth into a weapon and scold the sufferer. We will not do that here. Pain feels real, fear feels final. Jesus did not sneer at the blind or preach at the lame. He was moved with compassion. So we begin that way, not by accusing flesh, not by accusing you, but by relocating cause and authority. I am the Lord that healeth thee. Health, then, is not a physical achievement. It is the evidence of life realized. In other words, health is the fruit of a root, and the root is I, living presence, your very life. If you treat health as something to be manufactured in matter, you enter the old trap of manifesting, the prison, constant checking, bargaining with the body, counting symptoms like a bookkeeper counts coins. If this number goes down, I'll believe. If that twinge returns, I'm lost. You coax and threaten. You stack supplements like talismans. You rebuke a knee as if it answered to your voice. That is effort aimed at an effect. It is still hypnotism by appearance. Judge not according to the appearance. What you see, hear, taste, touch, and smell isn't a creation. It is a mental image useful as a reading, not sovereign as a law. There is no matter as cause. There are no material formations as law. We are dealing with God as the substance of all true form, life as your life. Then what replaces the strain? Grace, not passivity, not bravado grace. Be still and know that I am God. Make conscious contact with I until the terror loses its throne. That may be a few clean breaths where fear cannot argue because there is no argument, only presence. Perfect love casteth out fear. Love is not fussing at the body. Love is consenting to the life that already is your being. Sit with that. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. If all you can say is, here I am, that is enough to move the center of government from the report to the source. Often, in that quiet, there comes no instruction at all, only hush. That hush is already healing because it is the government of grace arriving in your awareness. And then, as we have learned, right ideas come humble and clear. You will be moved to rest, really rest, not flee. You will be moved to eat simply, not superstitiously. You may be moved to seek counsel, to take a remedy, to stretch, to walk, to cancel an obligation you have no grace to carry, to forgive a debt that is poisoning you. Take these human steps without worshiping them. They are not your healers. They are forms of the healer's activity. The cause is I. The form is its reading. Thy faith hath made thee whole. the master said. Not your technique, not your bargaining, not your checklist. I will tell you something small and sufficient. A woman came to me, no drama, but years of tightness in the chest, nights like winters, a mind patrolling her pulse as if a sentinel at a dangerous border. We did not attack the tightness. We turned quietly to the life that is her life. In him we live and move and have our being. For a week, nothing was new but a few unremarkable minutes of stillness, morning and night. Then a strange mercy appeared. She forgot to check her pulse until noon. The next week, she walked 3 blocks without planning it, without an inner report. She wept, not because the tightness had vanished forever, it had not, but because the sentinel was being retired. First the blade, then the ear. In 3 months, the nights were warmer. One day she said, I don't know when it happened, neither do I. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. But the principle has, and you are left with the principle. When life is realized within, form yields like ice to spring. Sometimes it happens in a twinkling of an eye. Sometimes it is progressive, lawful in spirit, ripening without hurry. Do not measure grace by the calendar. Do not make a doctrine of speed. The law came by Moses, do this, get that, on time like a clock. Grace and truth came by Jesus Christ, new government, new timing. As fear loses its claim, the body, which has been taking orders from a frightened mind, begins to receive orders from life. Harmony appears not as a medal for effort, but as an effect of identity. So let this be our posture with health. Refuse to fight the body. Stand with life. Refuse to plead with flesh. Make contact. Rest. Let the right idea rise and obey it without worship. And if someone asks you to explain your process, you may smile and say, I don't know. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. The proof will not be your explanation. It will be your peace. The peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Healing is not willed into matter. It is realized as life within, and then the body conforms as an effect. Now let us speak of work and purpose, because here, too, the old habit of manifesting shows up with a new costume. The marketplace will hypnotize you if you let it. It whispers scarcity. There are only so many roles, so many seats at the table. Hurry, compete, elbow. That is not your government. My kingdom is not of this world. You are not a beggar at a counter. You are the child of God, a joint heir with Christ. There is no such thing as competition in spirit. Individuality is a divine idea, not a commodity on a shelf. What is yours in God is yours because it is you, your true nature, expressing. Another person's success does not diminish you. It proves that the fountain flows. All that I have is thine. Work, then, is not something you get. Work appears as you embody the Christ idea already planted in you. It is the Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. Don't try to attract a title. Don't run after roles. Live the quality and let the function find you. In other words, show up as the work before the nameplate arrives, integrity in a small task, clarity in a simple email, service in an unnoticed corner, intelligence in a problem nobody wanted. That is not passivity, that is government. We are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus unto good works, which God hath before ordained that we should walk in them. Walk, don't perform to be seen. Don't posture to be picked, walk. Let me give you a parable of the invisible becoming visible. A woman, no platform, no followers, no dazzling resume, took a temp job answering phones at a parts distributor. The atmosphere was noisy with urgency, lost orders, confused customers, blame tossed like a ball. She did not crusade. She sat mornings in the hush. Here I am. She made no affirmations about titles. She simply consented. I is supply. I is intelligence. I is order. Then she lived one quality all day, clarity. She kept a small notebook, not a crusade, noting recurring confusions. On Fridays, she sent her supervisor a one-page, what I'm seeing that would help, clean headings, simple fixes. Nobody applauded. 2 months later, a regional manager visited. He found her notes. Who wrote these, he asked. The temp, they said. He asked for more. She kept writing, kept serving, not angling. 3 months after that, a role appeared that had not existed, customer systems coordinator. She did not get a role. A role got her because her invisible supply of right ideas had become too useful to ignore. A man's gift maketh room for him and bringeth him before great men. I don't know why it took 5 months and not 5 days. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. But the principle has, and you are left with the principle. Right ideas precede right titles. Do you see how this changes your day? If you are unemployed, you are not without work. You are without a paycheck for a moment. Your work is to embody the idea and let it speak. Sit in contact. Then do the next right thing that belongs to your idea. Write the 2-page guide that clarifies a problem you actually solve. Fix the broken process in your own home. Offer to solve a small, concrete need for a neighbor or former client. No fanfare, no pitch service first. Send 3 messages that carry value, not 100 that carry panic. If a nudge says wait, wait. If it says learn, learn. If it says call, call. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength, not by scattering, but by obedience. And if you are in a role that feels too small, don't despise the day of small things. Be the quality anyway. Integrity where nobody looks. Clarity where nobody asks. Service where nobody pays. When you embody the idea without bargaining, timing becomes kind. Guidance grows audible because desperation is quiet. You will find yourself led not to chase opportunity, but to become opportunity. And then opportunity recognizes its own. This is identity, not ambition. You are not a performer angling for applause. You are an instrument through which the Christ idea sings. Let your light so shine before men, not flash to get hired, but shine because light can't help it. The forms will appear, assignments, commissions, titles, collaborations by the law of their own ripening. Your task? Conscious contact first, then live the quality that rose in the contact. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. Your work is not something you get. It is something that appears as you embody the divine idea already within you. And when it appears, you will not strain to keep it. It will be your own nature meeting you in form. Here is the simple way, and I offer it lightly so you cannot turn it into a whip. Morning before the world announces itself, sit. No formula, no stopwatch. Be still and know that I am God. Sit until there is a measure of peace, even a thimbleful. What will it feel like? Not fireworks. Contact is a softening, as if a hand were taken off the throttle. Personal will loosens. A quiet assurance steals and no arguments won, yet something is settled. You sense in a government, the government shall be upon his shoulder. In other words, you do not become strong, you become governed. That is contact. Do not try to hold it like a breath underwater. Rise and live normally. Do your duties. Make the call. Send the proposal. Wash the dishes. Walk the dog. Eat your breakfast. Go to your desk. You are not trying to make anything happen now. You are letting the law of your being show you the next right step. My yoke is easy, and my burden is light. When the impulse to force returns, and it will pause, even for 3 breaths, And remember the principle rather than rehearse the problem. I is supply. Grace governs. God is the substance of all form. In that acknowledgement, strain leaks away and you can take the next ordinary step in peace. Some days the hush is deep. Some days it is a thread. I don't know why. It hasn't unfolded to me yet, but the principle has, and you are left with the principle. Daily contact is not a performance, it is consent. If in the morning contact is small, take it as your daily bread sufficient for the day. Give us this day our daily bread. At noon, if fear has crept up the stairs, do not wrestle it to the ground, turn. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. One clean turning is worth 100 debates with your sensations. At evening, sit again briefly, not to review your failures or congratulate your triumphs, but to return the day to its giver. Father, glorify thyself. How will you know that contact has occurred? There is less bargaining, less inner noise, less me. There is a lightness about ordinary action. You find yourself not postponing simple honesty, not over-talking, not rushing to secure what grace has not given you to secure. The mind will still propose strategies. That is fine. Let a strategy rise as a servant of the principle, not as its master. Take no thought for your life does not mean take no action. It means do not take anxious thought. The action that follows contact is unhurried, exact, often very small. Call a 2, not a 10. Correct the line item. Decline the invitation. Rest. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Practice watchfulness like this. Whenever you feel the old pressure, hurry, fear, the urge to explain or to defend, stop inside. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. Whisper, if you like, I. Not a magic word, identity remembered. Then act from there. Some will be healed only by your refusal to panic. And when you cannot seem to find the hush alone, ask for help within the fellowship. Where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. Find a practitioner, a teacher, or a mature friend who has been touched by grace and say, stand with me in realization. Do not ask them to work a method. Ask them to know with you that grace governs and I is supply. Borrow their quiet until yours awakens. Keep the structure light. Morning consent, midday remembrance. There are no rules here, only principle. The proof is not that you sat exactly 20 minutes or repeated perfect phrases. The proof is that after contact, you lived normally without the strain of making effects. The peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds. That peace is your method without method contact first, then ordinary action that belongs to the contact. Walk in that order and you will find timing kind, ideas ready, and forms appearing as fruit on a tree that did not hurry to ripen. Good, let us close where we began, only deeper. You have heard the order, and we must not reverse it. Principle first, embodiment next, forms last. Not first the fruit, then the root. First the root, and then inevitably the fruit. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, no more can ye, except ye abide in me. In other words, the life of your affairs requires the life of your life. When the principle is no longer a sentence, but your climate, demonstrations come as naturally as oranges to a well-rooted tree. We have not given you a technique. We have given you a government. The government of grace replaces the tyranny of strain. I is supply. God is the substance of all true form. Conscious oneness is the hinge on which direction, timing, and provision swing. You have seen how this walks. Contact, then the next natural step. Identity, then the form that belongs to it. Right ideas first, and money, health, work appearing as their readings. Keep that order holy. When you feel the urge to reverse it, when fear demands fruit on command, turn again. Be still and know that I am God. The quiet is not passivity, it is cause remembered. Now, about setbacks, do not dramatize your wobbles. The wind will blow, the branch may sway. Old fears will knock, and sometimes you will answer. All right. Nobody in this room returns to quite the state of consciousness they were in before a genuine realization. You may forget for an hour, a day, grace remembers. You may be pulled back to counting dollars or rehearsing symptoms or chasing roles. When you notice it, do not scold yourself into holiness. Turn, consent again. The root has been planted deeper than your mood. They shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. In his season, yours, not your neighbor's, not the calendar's yours. Let me invite you to a gentle test. Not a 30-day challenge to get a thing, not a vow to produce a miracle on schedule, simply this. For the next day, yes, one day, live under government, begin in the hush. Allow a measure of peace to take the shoulders of your day. Then, at each small threshold, a call to make, a report to read, a pain to notice. Pause and yield inwardly before you move. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. And then do the next right thing that belongs to that inner consent. If you stumble at noon, begin again at 12:05. This is not achievement. This is abiding. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. I do not know and do not need to know the hour at which your particular fruit will show on the limb. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. What has unfolded, I can say with quiet authority. The life of God as your life is the root. Forms appear by the law of their own ripening. So shall my word be. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please. Stay with the principle. You are only under cosmic law until you achieve the realization of grace. Then the ledger no longer governs you, and the harvest is not wages but gift. So we leave here without strain, without schedules, to bully spirit, abide, consent, walk, let the government be upon his shoulder. Keep your oil filled, small, sincere contacts through the day. Expect right ideas, obey them lightly, and let forms come as they must come, added, not wrestled. In due season you shall reap, if you faint not. Don't try, live it, exemplify it.